So I'm making a video game. Yeah, if you click the video, you could tell by the thumbnail. But yeah, I'm making a video game. I've been documenting my progress with some devlogs, and while I'm enjoying the process, yeah, sometimes this shit sucks. Like it is what's it called, what's that word? I forget, but it's a labor of love. Yes, like, yeah, there is no reward at the end of the tunnel. You're just going to work, and probably get nothing in return, and that sucks. But there are just so many things that just are unpleasant about doing this, and I'm sure you've probably seen a couple of videos already telling you this is why game dev sucks and all that jazz. I'm not gonna do that. This is not scripted at all. This is straight off the dome, and I have just the items I want to talk about on this list. So without wasting any more time, let's go. So one reason why video game development sucks is something I'm calling natural complexity. Now, what do I mean by natural complexity? So in my game, there is so much going on, and I'm quite literally only probably 25% of the way, like, to the finish line. Like, there's so much going on, and I'm not even like halfway done. So to give an example, let me switch to the actual game. One of the first menus the player will see in my game is the select the save slot menu. They select the save slot, and then they get the main menu, and then they have multiple different options. They can go to the settings, they can quit. There's nothing here but credits page at some point, and they can actually play the game. Yeah. I don't know why that happened, but yeah. So they can play the game. Now that is the simplest thing like the player is gonna see. They're not even gonna think about it. That's how simple it is, and just inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's standard. They expect that. But on the flip side, there's so much that had to be implemented for just that small sequence to happen. So let's switch back to the editor. Okay, so now that we're back in the editor, so if we recall the sequence, there was a save menu, there was a select the save slot menu. I didn't even mention this, but there are screen transitions where it fades in and out. There are different menus that the player can navigate to, and then there's the actual game. In order for all of that to work, there needs to be first the menu. So let's open that up and just go. What did I call it? Save. Yes. So first, I had to make the save slot menu. It is very short. This is the code that runs the menu. It is very short. However, it is dependent on this package, or rather this node I called Save Manager. So that Save Manager manages all the saving aspects of the game, like how you can save data, how they can access their details and all of that. So you see almost 500 lines just for that, just for the save menu to work. Now there's the screen transitions, scene manager, I think that's what it's called. Scene manager, yes. So there's a scene manager, and that also has its own set of code that helps me switch between scenes. There's the actual game. There's just so much that needs to be implemented just for the most basic of things to be done. So that's what I mean when I say natural complexity. Like things that, you know, players expect to be natural, and, you know, they expect those things to come with their games. They're a lot of work to make. So that just right off the jump just makes it very annoying to do some things, like to add some features. Like that's why scope creep is one of the biggest killers for projects, because the more features you add, the more complex your project gets, because like I said, it might be simple, but the groundwork for it to work is usually complex. So the next thing that I think that makes video game development suck is this is a weird one, but it's file management. So looking at my project, if we look to the left and we see the file structures. So I have, you know, 5 folders: utilities, scenes, resources, globals, and assets. It can, some people, you know, there is no standardized way to structure your files, so that's kind of up to you, which is one of the reasons why it's also fairly difficult, because if you don't really have experience managing your files, it could take forever looking for stuff. But just look at this. One folder has so many subfolders. One subfolder has so many subfolders. This also has so many subfolders. Let's go somewhere else, like resources, for example. Game data. Let's see, skills. There's so many skills that I have to make for the game to work, and those skills require so many files to like keep the data they need to work. All that to say that it is just a lot of file management. Like you're gonna constantly need to, you know, be on top of where your files are being kept, and you gotta organize them. Otherwise, that's like, you know, a problem for you later down the road. One more thing I got on my list is the amount of skills required to make an actual complete video game is a lot. Like so I was fortunate enough to complete a computer science degree, so I'm very comfortable writing software and putting the code together and all of that. So that's where my strengths lie. However, I'm currently just using placeholder art assets, because I'm not that great of an artist. But if the art for the game is bad, no one's gonna buy it. Music is something else you're gonna have to get into. Now, music, I play an instrument, so I'm fairly certain I can handle that myself too. Then the sound effects, you gotta make sound effects for your games, and I feel sound effects are actually underrated but very important, because they can give your game like a distinct feel. I find, and you know, there's like 3 skills off the top of my head. There's probably also going to need, you're also going to need to market your game. You're going to need to know, right now in this day and age, you got to know how to create content like I'm doing right now. There's just so many skills that you have to develop to actually make a successful, let's use the word successful game, because, you know, you don't need all these things if you just want to make a I guess like a hobby project. But if you're looking, like I am, if you're looking to try and make this a commercial thing, you're gonna have to put these skills to use or learn them. And I've accepted that, for example, the art part of it, learning that is going to take me like an extra year or 2 to get even fairly decent. So I'm definitely going to have to hire an artist. Now that's going to cost money. Where am I going to get the money to, like, I'm broke. That's why I'm trying to make the game and make some money off it. So, you know, it's just the unfortunate reality of making games. Another one is just like how I just mentioned how, you know, it takes a lot of skills. some financial investment even. But the unfortunate reality is that you may not see a profit ever. The game could be great. It could be the best thing since sliced bread, but fuck, if no one's interested, and no one's gonna pay for your product, and you're just not gonna make any money. And that's sad. That is honestly very sad that you could put your effort, and video games take a long time to make. Like right now, the time frame I've scheduled for myself is 2 years. I'm still on track, but I can definitely see that being extended just because of the sheer complexity and moving parts. Another thing that it's just something I'm mentioning, by the way, is you gotta make the game and then you gotta optimize the game. That is people rarely talk about that in game dev content, but optimization is something you're gonna have to learn how to do. So I can show you an example of that actually. Let's switch back to the editor and I'll show you where optimization is necessary. So now we're back in the game, and as I was saying, you gotta make the game and then you gotta also optimize it. So I'm going to show you one thing I've optimized and one thing I have not optimized. So if we move to the next section of the game, you'll notice that there sometimes could be there's a saving functionality that happens whenever you switch scenes. So let's go back. Whoops, Spider-Man. But yeah, once we go back to the previous, the game can like break the saving. Like I think the save procedures are too tasking for the CPU or something. But there's sometimes like some drop in frames whenever that save happens. And I haven't optimized that yet. It didn't really show up in this instance, but occasionally it does, and that it's not a good experience for your player base. One thing I have optimized though is my enemies have blood effects. So if I strike this enemy now, he's gonna spray some blood. We do the same here. Now each blood splatter is like a particle effect, and every time the enemy is struck, the particle effect, is supposed, in theory, the theory is that it spawns whenever a player hits the enemy. But I planned that there's going to be many enemies that you're going to have to face, in one given section. Or you're going to have to be fighting multiple enemies. So your attacks can hit multiple enemies also. So if you just keep spawning multiple particle systems all over the place, that can definitely bring down the optimization, or the performance rather of your game at that current frame or that current section. So I'm using a technique called object pooling. If you're familiar with game dev stuff, you probably already know what that is, but if you're not, I'll explain that to you. It's essentially just the idea that instead of continuously spawning for example here, blood particles whenever I need it, I spawn all of them at once and I just cycle through the particles I've already spawned and stored somewhere. So that way I'm never spawning a new particle. I'm just cycling through the pool that I've already made. It sounds easy, but there's some, depending on what you're making, it could get very complex. So yeah, that's just an example of an optimization I've done to ensure the game runs properly. And these are just things that you have to keep in mind when you're making a video game. I wanted this video to be not scripted, very jovial, because I'll be making a bunch of devlogs with some scripts and production value. Well, not really, but not really, there's not really production value there, but I've been putting in some efforts, and I wanted something a lot more chill here. So, if you made it to the end, thank you. I would appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, share the word, so help me make it out the trenches. You feel me? So yeah, thanks for stopping by, and until next time, peace.